Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Reading Game. We are your hosts, Josie and Lalo, and today we're going to be reading off the subreddit r/EntitledPeople. So the first story goes, my teacher cut the tube for my insulin pump because we couldn't have headphones in class. This happened when I was in middle school, back in the days of wired headphones, so about 2011 or something. I've 24 male currently, been a type 1 diabetic since I was about 4 years old, and I used a continuous glucose monitor and an insulin pump. I had an IEP, so all my teachers were told about it and that I would need my insulin pump in class, that it might make noise and I might have to pull it out of my pocket and mess with it if I needed insulin, or I might need to drink a juice pouch, and I was able to do so at my discretion. We had one teacher who was a complete hard-ass for no reason. She was notorious for making kids cry during presentations. She even told one girl who wanted to be a doctor to find a cure for cancer because her little sister had childhood cancer, that she would need to actually be smart to do that while chuckling to herself. Let a kid dream, man. We were like 12 years old. As you can imagine, she was also at war with technology. And as a side note, these days I use my phone to check my glucose and give myself an insulin bolus. I can't imagine being a kid today and dealing with a teacher like that when the lines are blurred and your smartphone actually is a life-saving medical device. But anyways, if you're not familiar with insulin pumps, the kind I use has a little tube that connects the pump, which has the insulin, to my body, which needs the insulin. This teacher also liked to be weirdly obtuse about things. Instead of being like other teachers and simply saying something like, no cell phones in class, put it on my desk, which would allow me to remind them it's an insulin pump, and they'd usually say something like, oh, that's right, my bad. She would instead try and talk abstractly about what she wanted to happen while walking around the room. So this particular day, she kept alluding to students listening to music in class, that you should be careful what you do because she can see it. That us kids think we're so sneaky, but the adults know what we're up to. I obviously wasn't listening to music, so I figured she'd seen someone else with headphones in the room. And the next thing I knew, she had snuck up behind me with scissors. It took me a good moment to realize what exactly had happened because I was astonished. I was used to teachers thinking I had a cell phone or getting upset about my pump beeping during an exam, but no one had ever touched it before, much less cut my life-sustaining tube. I was actually sitting with my mouth agape, and she turned to me, now that she was at the front of the class again, and said something along the lines of, Mr. Wonderly, care to share what tunes are more important than listening to class? I had at this point put together that she thought I was listening to music. She thought she cut my headphones wires. I replied, it's just the sound of my thoughts while I've still got any, since that was my insulin pump. She had to let me go to my locker to get my cell phone to call my mom to bring me a new infusion set. My parents insisted no cell phones until high school, but my mom was also scared with me being T1D and too dyslexic to remember a phone number and wanted me to easily be able to call her, so she got me a $15 Walmart phone and put minutes on it. And now I feel old. Then I just waited in the front office for her. She worked from home and drove like a bat out of hell. She was so angry. I don't ever want to see her that angry again in my life. It took 10 years off of me and I wasn't even in trouble. The teacher had apologized to me and all the teachers got some more disability accommodation training or something. Kinda anticlimactic but a friend thought it was entertaining and that I should share. Yeah, so what do you think of that story?
That's really fucked up. Even if it wasn't like something medical, teachers shouldn't go around destroying kids' property.
I was about to get there too, because like the top comment says, even if you were listening to music, what gives her the right to cut the headphones wires? Sounds like she should not be teaching. That's so true though, because like honestly, even if it was headphones though, like I would still report that. Like that's still something I bought with my personal money, or my parents, you don't know how expensive they were.
Yeah, like at our school, I don't know if they had it at your school, but they had a policy if you got caught with your phone, that you'd have to turn it in and turn it into the principal, and then you'd have to go, like your parents would have to come in and pick it up and pay you like a $15 fee, I think, which is absurd because it's your property. It's dumb because this is already like a public school. Most of the kids aren't in the best financial status, and then you're gonna take away their phone and then charge them a fee.
Yeah, I think the most teachers can do is like pick up the phones at the beginning of class, like if they're that concerned with kids being on their phone or like cheating. Like, yeah, I think that's cool, but like going extra, especially breaking something that's not theirs.
Yeah, or even confiscating. I don't feel like a school should be able to confiscate your phone.
I hate that. I hate the confiscation and shit.
That's dumb.
I think it is dumb too.
Like, yeah, if they keep using it, like, don't confiscate it. Just like write them up or something, send them to the office, but like don't confiscate the phone. Leave that to the parents to decide. They have the right to search your backpack and stuff because you sign like waivers and stuff, but like I think it's reaching. And like this teacher, like it's kind of like a power trip. Like, oh yeah, like you're gonna listen to me. I can do whatever I want. Like, nah, you can't just snip someone's property. That's
Okay, and also, I'm not diabetic or anything, but aren't insulin pumps like expensive?
yeah, I wouldn't know about that, but
I
I
wouldn't
would
know about
assume.
that, but I would assume just because it's like medical related and anything medical
I
is
mean,
fucking expensive.
they got OP's mom to come in with the fury.
Yeah, I would have too though.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I
mean,
would too.
I've heard that insulin. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that insulin's it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. Maybe someone can let us know.
Yeah, I would have honestly had them like if I was the mom, I would like request them to like pay for that for the damage. I
Oh
hope they
no,
do
for
pay for the
sure. They
damage.
have to pay for that. If not, I mean, if they don't want to pay for it, I'm coming for the school.
All right, on to the next story. So we're getting the medical stories out of the way first.
All right, so the next story. My friend called me a attention whore for posting a photo with my feeding tube. Oh man. So my friend Ava, 20, and me, 15, meet in an eating disorder residential center in 2020. While I have fully recovered, she still had her whole life revolving around ED. She changed her major to become a ED therapist, for example. So I have naturally distanced myself. Last week, I was hospitalized for SMA syndrome. The tube under my stomach got crushed, so I can't eat, and when I do, I get really nauseous or intense pain. And I was in severe distress. The hospital also misdiagnosed me, and so the treatment plan they had me on was causing me severe pain as well. I promise this is all necessary. So, while all this is happening, Ava texted me and said, "Hey, what's up?" I told her what was going on and that might not be on my phone much due to my hospital visit. She kinda ignored that and sent a selfie and said, "I got admitted to a psych ward." I did not open the text till days later because of how bad I was feeling. Once the doctors figured out what was actually going on, they got me a NJ tube. At this point, I've gone 4 days only eating a bagel and 2 applesauces in 4 days. So they could get me nutrition and hopefully fix this SMA syndrome. A little over a week later, they released me from the hospital with the feeding tube. When I got home, I posted on Instagram a photo that showed the feeding tube. Because it goes in your nose, I thought nothing of it. I was happy to be home and I wanted to share I was doing better with my friends. Flash forward to last night. Ava told me she was writing a book on how to recover from eating disorder without getting help. I told her it's probably not the best idea, and she proceeded to spend the entire conversation trying to convince me it was. I sent minimal responses. She tried to convince me with a text from her therapist where her therapist said this was a good step to healing her ED, as evidence it was a good idea. While I disagree, I also am not Ava's therapist. I told her that I'm not changing my mind and I have bigger problems than dealing with her. For reference, our whole relationship has been about her. I tell her I broke my arm. She takes over the conversation about how once she broke her arm. In recovery, I could never vent to her about my big emotions about food because she always needed me to support her. I then blocked her. I forgot I added her on Snapchat, though she proceeded to text me calling me a attention whore and saying I was begging for attention by posting a self showing off my feeding tube. She said since I changed my lifestyle and things I like since we met, I've become basic bitch who is again an attention whore. I told her that I grew up and just because my style and my interests changed from the ages of 13 to 15 is not abnormal. I called her a bitch for saying I was a attention whore because of my tube, because it took me a while to even look at myself with the tube in. Nevertheless, post a photo with it. I fully cut her off now. Yeah, that's the first thing I was confused about. So one of these comments says, "You're 15 and she's 20. She bonded with the minor to make herself feel better. She most likely doesn't have friends her age for a reason."
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I was like, wait, she met her when she was 15 and she was 20.
How did they meet?
It's like a community, right? Like maybe
They
maybe
met
like
at the
online.
eating disorder community. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, a residential
Yeah.
center in 2020. Probably like something like a recovery program maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, eating disorders are no joke. I don't know. I like how not OP, like her friend is saying that she's an attention whore for posting that picture. Yeah, she's writing a whole book about it, isn't she?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like she's like narcissistic.
Yeah, like
Like-
only her experiences are valid.
Yeah, only her. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, essentially, they're
she-
kind of doing the same thing. Like,
And her whole personality revolves around that one thing.
yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah, and her coming at her, yeah, it's basically like she's just being narcissistic and saying like only my experience is valid, not yours. Because essentially, they're both putting their experiences out there just in different ways.
It's weird that the older person is like the one that hasn't grown up too.
Yeah, and even like OP, she said that she was cautious about what she said around her because she was considerate of her eating disorder.
She was the grown up
Exactly.
instead of the grown up.
Exactly, and she was only 15. Like,
That's crazy.
yeah, I think at that point you just have to like cut them off.
That's wild. Well, she said that she was supporting her. Like she couldn't talk about it because she always had to be there for her. That's kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
It's like a one-way street.
And even if she did thought that she was an attention whore, why say it? Like, I feel like if you thought that, like, at least keep that thoughts to yourself. Like, why? Like, I don't see how she would benefit or think it would be a good idea to tell her that she's an attention seeking.
Because she's stealing attention from her. That's why she cares.
Yeah, valid.
She wants to be the center of attention, and she's not the center of attention at the moment, so she's getting mad.
Yeah.
Ready for the next story?
Alright. So the next story reads, cashier doesn't care if a person is dying, she's hungry and wants her break. So in my past stories, I've shared some of my experiences dealing with customers while working at Walmart. This time I tell you about one of my cashiers I dealt with as a supervisor at a Save-A-Lot grocery store. So this particular day starts off just like any other day. We're taking care of customers, I'm handling things on the floor and in the office. The cashier that is the subject of this story is one of my closers for the night. She already has a reputation for being lazy and selfish, so we're already not big fan of hers. During the day, a young man looking to be in his 20s comes in and goes right to the restroom. This Save-A-Lot is a pretty small store, so both restrooms are one-person restrooms. You go in, lock the door, do your business, and then it's the next person's turn. This guy was in there for a pretty long time, and others were waiting for their turn. I had been busy with customers, so I wasn't aware how long people were waiting until a customer came to me to complain. So I go knock on the door and ask if everything's okay. No answer. I go into the office to get the keys to check on this man. As I open the door, I see him lying on the floor unconscious, with the needle sticking in his arm. I get one of my other cashiers to call 911, so we're following their instructions. Paramedics arrive, proceed to work on him, and revive him. As they're taking him to the hospital, the paramedics inform us that a few more minutes and he wouldn't have made it. So now I'm doing my best to calm the cashier that called 911 down because she's going into an anxiety attack. When I hear my name called, the following exchange takes place. Entitled cashier. I was supposed to go on break 15 minutes ago. Me. You saw what just happened? That man almost died. Entitled cashier. So, you could have just sent me after the ambulance got here, but instead you were talking to Janie. Me. Look, I'm not going to go back and forth with you about this. You're mad? Get over it, because I'm not going to apologize for anything that just happened. The world doesn't revolve around you. So she goes on her break, and we all get back to work. And if that wasn't bad enough, she didn't lift a finger to help with any of the closing tasks and had the nerve to ask me to leave early. She would get fired a few weeks later. What do you think?
I'm thinking that it's good she got fired. I mean, she has no empathy. She's a narcissist. She didn't help closing. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you still deserve your break, especially after something like that, but it didn't seem like she cared at all.
Yeah, it seems like she didn't, like she wasn't any at all empathetic. I would have, like, you know, like if you almost witnessed somebody dying in front of you, like to a certain extent, you would have like kind of be like in shock for a minute, you know?
And it seems like she's really entitled. I mean, it doesn't even look like OP's really that surprised. That's crazy though. Like someone's dying in front of you and you're just like, hey, I want to go eat my McDonald's.
But then think about it. What if she hadn't ate all day and like that was her first meal or something?
Yeah, but someone died.
Almost died. Yeah, true.
Her food could wait. You could
like
go days without eating. You'll be fine.
I feel like I would have lost my appetite anyways after witnessing that. Like I would have been like in shock.
That was like her priority.
It just seems like she is very selfish. Let me read one of the comments. The top comment. So the top comment says, oh, it's a pretty long one too, but let's see. It says, my mom was getting her chemo in the oncologist's office one day. We had to fight so much traffic and get there early. So sometimes I waited to get breakfast there in the hospital cafeteria next door. Mom was all set up, told me, go get breakfast. She's fine, they're taking care of her. I go. Later, I get back and they say she had a serious reaction to chemo today. It almost killed her. People can sometimes develop an allergic reaction to chemo and often do. Then, if they take that chemo again, they die. My mom would never be able to take that chemo again. Now, they would move to to another type of chemo. She went successfully through 4 kinds of chemo, developing an allergy to each one. Then there were none left and the cancer took over and killed her. Well, this is a dark one. This is a dark comment. Anyways, as I waited in the waiting room for my mom to recover so we could go home, she had turned all red and passed out. A hospital worker also taking chemo was sitting next to her and they were talking. That lady saw and yelled for help. If she hadn't, my mom would have had a heart attack and died that day. The allergic reaction is fast and deadly. So this lady in the waiting room says to me, complaining about the delay in being seen. They had some kind of emergency and they are making everyone wait. So I told her, yes, I know. My mom reacted badly to her chemo today and almost died. She didn't say another word.
That one's wild, and it kind of reminds me of how we just recently went to the ER, and these group of people came in, and I guess they asked how long it was gonna take, and they got an answer back, and they weren't too happy about it. They left all angry, and in my head, I'm like, if you're mad about your wait time and you're fine with going to another hospital, then maybe that's why your wait time was long, because it probably wasn't that serious.
Yeah, it probably wasn't an emergency. I mean,
exactly.
if it's an emergency, like, you don't care. You just want to be seen.
Yeah, you want to be seen as quick as possible, and you got to understand that some people have...
Yeah. Especially ERs, like, I think they go based on, like, not who comes first. It's not like a first come first served basis.
No,
it's like who needs to be seen immediately, like who has the most complicated symptoms, like the most dangerous ones, and they kind of go based on that. So if they really wanted to be seen and it was really an emergency, like, they would have been seen first. But
yeah, that was crazy to me, because I've been in an emergency room for stuff that's like wasn't as bad as other people, and I've been there for hours. But I mean, I still stayed so I could be seen.
And I wanted to say another, not like a story, but like another kind of situation where it's very similar. And it kind of has like the same vibes. Whenever like there's like and it's pretty dark too, but whenever there's like an accident and like where people are like injured and there's like a fuck ton of traffic, how sometimes like I feel like, or not even injured, but like sometimes there's an accident and you don't know what's going on and you're like, fuck, there's traffic, I'm gonna be late, like fuck, I'm just trying to go home. But then we don't realize that sometimes like that literally could be somebody who has been injured or
dead.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it because it's dark.
I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I've been guilty of this, where I've been annoyed with traffic and to the point where I get up to the front and then I see like a car accident. I think one time I actually saw like an actual body laying on the side, and after that day I was kind of refrained from really complaining every time I get into traffic, so, or even getting mad. Like, yeah, it's still upsetting that it's like taking so long to get somewhere, but I mean, at least you're not the person that was on the floor.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anytime there's traffic, I'm just like, okay, there's probably something bad happened ahead. I mean, it's out of your control, so the best you could do is just drive through. Yeah, sit back. Listen to a podcast. Listen to this podcast.
Yeah, listen to us. Okay, yeah, this episode got kind of dark a little bit too early on, so we're going to have to switch it up, and the next story is going to be a little bit more interesting.
Yo, wait, hold up. On that note, that's crazy, because my mom also did chemo, and man, she was like calm about that, because I would have cursed that lady out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the lady in the comments.
Yeah. All right, next story.
Let's lighten up the mood with. Well, actually, I haven't read any of these stories because I wanted to jump in, not knowing and having my reaction. But by the title, it's kind of clickbaity, and I thought it was funny.
Okay. My psycho mother shits herself at her cousin's wedding. Hello, Reddit fam. I'm back with another story about my crazy mother, who I called Light Switch, but I think I want to give her a different nickname. I decided on Beelzebitch, as she is a literal demon in a human form. I heard someone say that on TikTok and thought it sounded better, so I'm gonna go with that. A quick update on my life. I'm still in the process of fixing up my apartment how I like it. My kids are doing well, and I am officially divorced. I'm working a lot and bringing in some decent income. I'm also going to the gym 3 times a week while doing some home exercises on the other days and starting on the keto diet. I'm hoping to lose at least 40 pounds so I can squeeze into some cuter clothes. I've already lost a couple of pounds, so that's a win for me. Anyway, on to the story. This happened when I was in my early 20s. My mother's cousin Mary was getting married. She wanted me, Bezo Bitch, my sister, and a couple other female relatives to be in her wedding party. Bezo Bitch hated the idea of being a bridesmaid. Whenever we would go wedding planning stuff, she would complain the entire time. She hated the bridesmaid dresses, the hair and makeup ideas, and had a meltdown over the shoes. My sister, who was very much the carbon copy of Bezo Bitch, would also throw fits. I didn't really like much of Mary's ideas either, but I went along with it because I wanted to support her. She was mostly wheelchair bound and could only walk for a short amount of time before she got winded and had to sit down again. I can't lie, the bridesmaid dresses were pretty fucking ugly. A pale army green, short sleeves with a camouflage sash around the waist. They were cut just below the knee and the shoes were combat boots. Mary's husband, Kyle, is military, so they were going with the military style theme. Our hair had to be done up in a donut bun on the back of the head, hair flat against the scalp, and the makeup had to be minimal. Despite the bridesmaids hating it, Mary loved it. That was all that mattered, but Bee's a bitch wouldn't let it go. Her aunt, Tammy, had to rein her in on several occasions and remind her that this was Mary's day and not hers. I can't really blame Bill's a bitch and my sister Bill's a brat for hating the dress and shoes, but they should have just sucked it up like the rest of us. The lack of flowers was an even bigger problem. Instead of flower arrangements, Mary and Kyle went with black painted jars filled with sticks with the model tank sitting beside it as the centerpieces and dog tags as gifts to send home with the guests. Kyle has a huge collection of models that he put together and painted himself. It was his one hobby he enjoyed. On the sides of the aisle were fake rifles, lining it with pale green paper streamers. It was ugly, but again, it was Kyle's and Mary's day, so what they wanted, they got. The day of the wedding, we were scheduled to get our hair and makeup done at a small salon a few blocks away from the American Legion where the wedding was taking place. My bun was so tight, I got a temporary brow lift and a headache. I noticed right away that Bill's a bitch and Bill's a brat were nowhere in sight. I called the house, trying to get a hold of them, but they didn't answer. It was already close to the wedding time, and we were all starting to get a bit panicky. Mary was looking lovely in her wedding gown, but she too noticed Bill's a bitch and Bill's a brat were missing and began to get upset. Finally, at less than 30 minutes until wedding time, they both rolled in and we all looked at them horrified. Bill's a brat was wearing a bright neon pink dress, black high heels, a big hair, and bright loud makeup. Bill's a bitch was even more horrifying. She was wearing a pale gray dress. It was so pale that it could be mistaken for a wedding dress. She was drunk, clutching a cocktail in her hand and laughing to herself when she saw how upset Mary was. Mary began to cry, getting really upset. I do not advocate for violence, but this is one instance where I wanted to strangle her. I didn't need to, as Tammy woke up and had chosen violence that day. She grabbed Beezle bitch by her arm and forced her into a chair. She told her and Bill's brat that they both would change into the dresses Mary had paid for and get their hair and makeup done the way Mary wanted. And if they didn't, she would personally see to it that the two of them end up being dragged with the cans behind Kyle and Mary's car after the wedding and prayed that they went onto a highway for the most painful experience of their lives. The rest of us sat in stunned silence, not wanting to get on the woman's bad side. Bill's bitch began to whine but relented after the threat of being smacked around by Tammy. We barely made it on time as it was less than a few minutes out from the time the wedding started. I walked with my escort down the aisle as the music began to play. This bitch was so petulant about the whole thing that she was tugging on her escort's arm and acting belligerent. She was loudly commenting on the decor, calling it hideous and insulting people as she walked by them. The poor groomsman has my respect for enduring her behavior for the few minutes that he was escorting her down the aisle. She stood behind me. Bill's brat soon followed. Once all of us were lined up in our respective places, Kyle walked down the aisle dressed in his formal military uniform. He looked so happy. That was until Bill's bitch began to make comments about how stupid he was for marrying a cripple and being stuck with her. I snuck a look over at Tammy, who was fuming, and she looked like she wanted to punch Bill's bitch in the face. She told her to shut the fuck up or else. Bill's bitch laughter and Willie grin soon shifted into a sneer. I whispered back at her, begging her to cut it out. When Mary was coming down the aisle, her father was pushing her in her wheelchair. Bill's bitch began to groan, grunting and sounding like she was in pain. I looked back at her and her face was as red as a tomato. I whispered asking if she was okay and she didn't say anything. I looked over at Tammy, who was glaring daggers at her and waiting for an excuse to knock her out. Once Mary got to the end of the aisle, her father helped her to stand and Kyle helped to hold her so the priest could begin. As the priest was talking, I heard the most disgusting sound behind me. It was so loud that the priest lost focus and went silent. It was as if a bomb had exploded and the smell that followed it began to fill the air. Bilsa Brat and the other bridesmaids behind her began shrieking. I turned around and looked at Bilsa bitch and then looked down. Her legs and the floor surrounding her was splattered with soupy diarrhea shit. Mary was so horrified by the situation that she nearly collapsed and had to be helped into her wheelchair. Bilsa bitch was acting fake, pretending to be embarrassed, overly exaggerating, even by shitting herself, and looked around and asked for some assistance in cleaning herself up. She looked at the groomsman who escorted her in, and a sickeningly sweet voice asked if he would volunteer. He looked like he wanted the ceiling to cave in on him. She looked so satisfied with what she did. She was grinning ear to ear to see everyone causing a fuss over her. Not a shred of remorse. Tammy was so fed up that she sucker punched Piso Bitch square in the jaw, and the two of them got into a brawl. Other guests had to break them up. The police were called, and much to her real shock and humiliation, Piso Bitch was escorted out. She tried to argue, but Kyle told her he wanted her gone. Bilsa Bitch and Bilsa Brat both looked at me as I was going to. Kyle insisted I stay. Some of us vomited from the smell because it was that bad. I like to think I have a strong stomach, but this was otherworldly. We all pitched in to clean up the mess. By the time we were done, Mary and Kyle were nowhere to be found. Tammy found them outside, Mary in tears and Kyle holding her. I apologized profusely for my mother's behavior. I offered to have the rug professionally cleaned, as it had been a gift from a late coronel who had been a patron there some years ago. I know a simple steam clean would have gotten the job done just fine, but I wanted to show just how sorry I was for Bisa Bitch making the day all about herself and ruining such a precious thing. They said it wasn't necessary. Once the smell cleared out, we were able to continue the wedding. The reception was quiet and we all ate in silence. Once I got home at night, Bisa Bitch was giving me the silent treatment. I found her on the couch drinking whiskey and glaring at the wall. Her bridesmaid dress and boots were stuffed into the trash and the dress was shredded like it had been butchered with scissors. Bilsa Brett called me a bitch and said I was a traitor because I didn't support our mother. I told her that I can't support someone who would purposefully shit themselves just to take spotlight off a bride on her wedding day. My brother, who wasn't at the wedding, broke my stereo by spiking it right onto the pavement outside. Tammy spread the news to everyone on that side of the family. Much of our family cut communication with her after that. She would get angry and embarrassed if anyone brought it up. She maintained for years that it was an accident, but anyone who was there and saw what happened knew she did it on purpose, out of spite, and because she couldn't stand the day not being about her. She was never invited to any weddings in the family after that. Every time someone in the family announced their wedding online, she would whine about not getting an invite, but they would remind her of what she did, it being why she would not be invited to another wedding until she can learn how to act like a human being and not a wild animal and attention-seeking asshole. Spoiler alert, she never did. I still talk to Mary and Kyle now and again. They are doing well. Kyle is retired from active duty and serves as a drill sergeant. They aren't able to have kids of their own due to Mary's condition, but they are foster parents to 3 boys and a girl. Super happy for them and glad they are doing well. Anyway, that's it for that story. I'll be back with another soon. Yo, that mom is fucking disgusting.
Jesus, bro.
Like, what the fuck? You're that fucking so narcissistic to the point where you shit yourself for attention.
Ugh, I can't even think about the diarrhea, bro. Like,
and the sister, she grows too. You're supposed to support her mom, support her for doing that. No, that's enabling the worst type of behavior.
Yeah, and
I would go no contact with the mom.
I would too. From what she said at the beginning, this is probably not the first story that she has of her mother.
I mean, it should have been the last one.
It should have, but yeah.
Bro,
out of spite.
No shame.
I was about to say that. How do you not have shame? Imagine if it happened just accidental.
Even
I would have been
so
embarrassed.
I would never show my face again.
Yeah, I was about to say I would be so embarrassed. I would never ever show my face. Even if imagine doing it purposely.
On purpose. This can't be real
couldn't
life.
be me. Yeah, that cannot be real life because. But also how the kids still support her and shit. Or the sister. How
brainwashed.
Yeah, because if that was my mom, I would be so embarrassed for myself for just her being my mom.
Well, there's that mentality that you always support your family no matter what. But
yeah, to encourage her when she literally is insane. Bro, no. I mean, I already told you that my mom was kind of a little bit of a Karen. I would be embarrassed in certain situations. And it would be just small things. But to encourage that behavior and not even that behavior, but 10 times or 100 times worse, you know?
Who raised her mom? How do you come out like that, dude, where you think shitting at someone's wedding is okay? Alright, let's go on to the next story. Or what's one of the comments?
So one of the comments says, I'm sorry, but your mom is sick. She's a narcissist. She really embarrassed herself to make it about her. and your siblings are so manipulated they took her side. Your brother broke your stereo. You were called a bitch. I guess she was never invited to your wedding. Is she still the same or gotten better in time? Oh, someone said read the rest of the OP's post. She's in jail.
Yo, what?
Well, I didn't read that.
That's not surprising, though.
Yeah, she sounds like a trashy person. Very trashy.
That's
I mean, if you're going to
crazy.
shit at a wedding, that's mad trashy.
Just to make it about yourself. Garbage person. Literally a shit person.
Literally.
All right, let's go on to the next story.
So we're going to keep it on with the theme of Karens. And there's nothing worse than a anti-vaxxer. So it reads, in-laws on my last nerve. I, 29 female, am 6 months pregnant with my first child due February. We struggled to conceive, and I admit I've been anxious during this whole pregnancy. I want to give my baby the best start possible. We spoke with our doctors and decided to not have a lot of people around our newborn while I'm on maternity leave, and we are also requiring visitors to be up to date on vaccinations. We also aren't allowing my sister's children to visit early on, 3 female and 7 female, because they are at a higher risk of getting the baby sick, even with just the cold being in school, plus the younger one hasn't gotten her COVID vaccination. I'm not here to judge people's vaccination choices, but we make the decision with our doctor to keep our babies the safest they can be before they can get vaccines. My mom, sister, dad, and stepmom were all on conspiracy theories that COVID vaccination has been killing people and is unsafe. They also were very angry we were making rules for them to follow. My mother-in-law basically hasn't been speaking to us for the past 2 months. I've sent her updates about the baby, ultrasound pictures, info about the shower, pictures of the nursery, etc. And I'm lucky to get a one-word answer. My husband talked to her on the phone today to try to clear the air after he talked with his dad, and his dad said she told him she's not going to the baby shower. The main points of the conversations were, she said we are causing a rift in the family by requiring vaccines. 2, she said we are hypocrites for going on a trip last month and risking ourselves. And in parentheses, she says, we got flu shots and booster beforehand. Number 3, we are keeping her from her grandchild and it is cruel, / we are choosing to exclude her. Number 4, she won't be coming to my baby shower because she doesn't want to support me or be happy about the baby since she can't hold it immediately after the birth. 5, she said other family on that side won't come to the shower because I missed her niece's bridal shower because I was vomiting and exhausted by carrying her grandchild. Number 6, she accused me of sending texts from my husband's phone and asked my husband to be honest if he really is the one who wants them to get the shots. And in parentheses, she writes, he agrees with me 100% and made the decision to enforce the rules. Number 7, she threw it back in his face that they helped us fix some stuff around our house last year when we first bought our home and now are treating them this way. My husband did ask my father-in-law to help him drywall and a few other things, and my mother-in-law did come over and help me paint a couple of times too. It's not that we don't appreciate it, but it has nothing to do with the other situation and they could have told us no. I'm really at a loss of what to do. I've basically decided to cut off contact with her from now on, but I feel guilty. At this point, I feel like it's up to her to reach out. We also offered to FaceTime them to see the baby if they choose not to get vaccines, and they said no, they don't want that. With this level of insanity / rudeness, I would cut them off for good if it wouldn't hurt my husband's feelings. Is it wrong that they show no interest in me, don't support me, or show interest in the baby before they can hold them? That I don't feel comfortable having them over after maternity leave is over? I know I'm going to leave the final decision up to my husband since it's his child too, but if it's truly radio silence for the next few months, I don't want the negativity around my child. Am I wrong? No, you're not wrong.
Nah, first of all, stop watching all those conspiracy videos. And even if it wasn't for that, kids could get sick easily. She's concerned about her kid's safety. The mother-in-law is just like making it about herself. Narcissistic again.
Yeah, and that's like the topic for today, narcissist. And I'm not trying to shine like a bad light on like narcissists, but
like you're not entitled to visit your grandchild. You're not entitled to that just because you're the grandparent. If they set the rules, they're the parents, and they say that you need to be vaccinated, then you have to be vaccinated. Like they're not even entitled to pick up the kid. Like they should ask before they do anything that has to do with the kid.
What's up with like mothers fathers and mothers-in-laws wanting to carry the baby like immediately after their child is born. Like, bro, the first person who should carry the baby is the mother or the dad, either or.
It's the mother.
Yeah, the mother. Yeah, because she
Dad's
just
second, but mother's carrying it for 9 months. Come on.
True. Yeah, it should be the actual mother. Like, I've heard and read so many Reddit stories where mothers want to fucking carry the baby as soon as it comes out the womb. Like, want to be the first person to carry the baby. Like
you already carried a baby.
Yeah.
Calm down.
You already had your chance. Like I feel like that's so weird. Like,
just get vaccinated.
Oh yeah, and also get vaccinated. And if you don't, then respect other people's like rules around vaccinations.
Like, if you don't want to get vaccinated, that's fine, but there are gonna be consequences. Like, I hate the whole thing where I'm not gonna get vaccinated. It's a free country. I don't have to get vaccinated. That's fine. Don't get vaccinated. But businesses are allowed to refuse you for that. There's consequences for your actions. You're free to do what you want, but there's gonna be a consequence.
I think like the only time like people shouldn't get vaccinated is unless they have like an actual allergy to anything in the medications. Like, I do understand that certain situations do come across that, but like a lot of the people who are anti-vaxxers are just conspiracy theorists.
Just get the microchip. One of us.
You already have like a phone, bro. Like, if the government wants to know anything about you,
you already have a social
or control you, like, you have a phone, bro. Like, they got you. They already know where you're at all the time.
That's like the funniest thing. And like, I remember when I worked at a retail store for a phone company, a guy came in and he had a phone. It was a flip phone, and he brought it in like a box with a locked key, and I think it was like a copper. I think it was like copper or something, because it blocked off like the signal or something. And he was like, yeah, I don't want them to track my movements or whatever. Like, I don't want to be on the grid. And I'm like, you were born, you have a social security, you're on the grid, you're in the system. And first of all, why would the government want anything to do with you? Like, you're on one of the most budget, let me just say, the budget friendly phone companies, and you think the government's coming looking for you?
Yeah. If we had so many customers like that they would come in and then like they would be like, my phone doesn't have any signal and shit, and they would be like on airplane mode, and then I'd be like, bro, because you're on airplane mode. And they're like, no, do that because I don't want the government to like have any of my information. And I'm just like,
how phones work. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing ever. I was just shocked at how people thought they were being watched all the time, which you're not wrong, but I don't think the government's watching you. It's corporations watching you so they could get every penny out of
for
you.
marketing and stuff, like showing you ads. But that's really, I feel like,
capitalism, baby.
Yeah. Or when you had a customer and like you would mess with the settings because like you would have to like fix their issues, and they would be like, no, don't turn this on, don't turn that on, because like, you know what I'm saying, like I don't want them to know, like no, don't
turn it on for the phone to work.
Yeah.
Like, some things were like, it was terms and services.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to give it permission for that. Like, you have to give it permission for the phone to work.
Or they would be like, oh, I can't take pictures like on Instagram, and it's because you have your permissions off for the camera. Like,
yeah, but then they're gonna be looking through me through the camera. Like, no, they're not.
Then you can't upload pictures. Like,
they're not gonna look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. I don't even want to look at you.
I mean, I get it though. I mean, the internet's just a big thing, but just in general, like, yeah, like you said, you have a social, dude. Like, you are in the system already.
You're in the system.
You're in the system.
You came, like, your car you drove into the store with is registered. You're in the system.
And keep it on with the anti-vaxxer thing.
Alright. Anti-vax mom lies to me about having heart defect. So this was in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, right when they started announcing the vaccine for teenagers. I was living with my mom, who was anti-vax growing up, but now believes COVID is fake and the vaccines are evil and blah blah blah. I had told her I wanted to get the vaccine and asked her to book me an appointment. She said no. Every time I asked her, it was a no with whatever excuse she decided to make up. Until one day I sat her down and decided either she could support me in this choice or I would go and get it done myself without her. And here's how that convo went. Me: Mom, I know how you feel about the vaccine, but you are immunocompromised, and if you get COVID, you will die. I need to get this vaccine. Mom: I don't care. No, you are not putting that shit in your body. Me: Mom, pretty soon we won't be able to go anywhere without being vaccinated. I won't be able to go out for dinner with my friends or go do things. Mom: do you want to know the truth? Me: yeah. Mom: when you were born, you had a tube on your heart that wouldn't close. We had to keep you in the hospital for weeks to fix it, and even then they were worried that it could open back up at any point and you could die. Doctors say you should shouldn't get the vaccine if you have a severe heart defect, and you do. I don't remember whether it was a tube or an artery or just a plain old hole in my heart, so don't try and get all sciencey in the comments because I don't know what exactly she said, as this was 2 years ago. I had heard many stories about my birth and the health problems I faced as a baby, but that was never mentioned. Not once. I was immediately worried about my heart and started panicking and doing research to see what the chances were of it opening and killing me. My mother knew I was panicking over it and simply said nothing. Everyone in my life will say I'm a hypochondriac because I'm constantly worried about my health and dying.
Oh my god, they're me.
For real. I was freaking out, so I reached out to a friend of mine that had a similar heart defect, and we chatted for a bit, and she said I should be fine to get the vaccine. Fast forward a week or two, I went downstairs to tell my mom I had booked an appointment to get the vaccine and that after much research I should be fine. As soon as I told her that, she looks up from her phone and says extremely nonchalantly, "Oh, by the way, you don't have anything wrong with your heart. I just don't want you to get a vaccine." She said it as if she was telling me we were out of milk, totally calm and with no remorse or any emotion. My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe that my own mother had lied to me about me having a serious health problem just so I wouldn't get the vaccine. She watched me freak out about it and worry about dying and said nothing. She watched me almost cry when she told me and said nothing, all because she didn't want me to get a vaccine to save her life. I eventually got the vaccine anyway, and with much begging, so did she. She refused to get her second dose and was extremely overdramatic after her first. She screamed and cried for hours, saying how much her arm hurts and how sick she was to this day, To this day, she still only has one dose. Yeah, because, lying to you. Like this person says it. Yeah, because lying to your kid about serious health stuff is definitely the way to make them trust your judgment.
That is so fucked.
That is fucked up.
That is so fucked. Telling a hypochondriac that, dude, no, I would have spun out of control.
Like, just put it like a...
And
if it was true, why wouldn't you tell him at a certain age? That's like shit. Like, I would have questioned it right away. Like, oh, this is the first time you bring this up.
That's horrible parenting, dude. Like, yeah, like, I would have questioned that too. Like,
yeah, like, it's not adding up.
Yeah, I would have questioned that. Yeah, I would have been like, why hasn't this ever been brought up? Yeah, you're right.
I would have gone straight to my doctor and be like, hey, like, this was...
Honestly, I would have scheduled an appointment with the cardiologist or some shit. Like,
honestly, at that point, like, I would have considered going like low contact.
Yeah, because
I'm surprised she got her like to actually get one dose.
Okay, yeah, I'm surprised because like I mean, if she was going like above and beyond to try to manipulate her or gaslight her, or not gaslight, but like manipulate her into like not getting the vaccine, I'm surprised she did end up getting the vaccine, or at least one of them, one dose.
That's why all that for that, like, you lost your daughter's trust. It was the daughter, right?
Yeah, I think she's a female.
Like, you lost your child's trust just because you want them to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Next time you could probably tell them something serious and they're gonna doubt you at that point.
Yeah,
like, you lost some credibility at that point.
I would have lost my
trust. If not all credibility.
I would have lost all my trust in them. Especially because she did specify that she's been considered a hypochondriac previously. And that makes it 10 times worse because...
And she says she saw her freaking out and crying.
Yeah, she probably was having like panic attacks, dude. I cannot imagine.
I could just picture the mom going, yeah, that'll stop her. It's like a cartoon shit. Yeah, that'll stop her.
That is so evil. That's
like
so
perfect.
Evil.
There's no way this could backfire and come back to bite me in the ass.
Yeah, like, what is like her way of thinking?
Perfect example of if you want your kids to put you in a nursing home.
Yeah, in a hospice.
Wait, no, it's a nursing home. Hospice is different.
Oh.
A hospice is where you're about to die and then they accommodate you. Like, there's nothing left that could help you, so they kind of help you comfortably go out. That's what a hospice is.
Oh, okay, never mind. A nursing. Like a shitty nursing home.
A shitty nursing home. Like in BoJack.
Like in BoJack, yeah.
Where he sends his mom to that shitty ass one. That's fucked up.
Yeah, fucking BoJack. I love BoJack.
That's something BoJack's mom would do.
Yeah, that is literally something BoJack's mom would do. Yeah.
Just turn around and manipulate. It's like...
That's insane.
That's crazy.
That is some messed up shit because it literally messes with your psyche. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't tell your kids they have disease. They don't. Well, it's not. That's something else.
What?
Because there's that one condition where parents try to keep their kids sick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I forgot what it's called.
But I think it's to
kind of protect them, or in their words,
in their words, protect them
from the world,
but keep them sick, or maybe for attention. I don't know. I forget which one it was.
I think it's both for like
attention and
to kind of keep them to themselves.
That's crazy.
I think that's also weird. Yeah. Oh yeah, and so with that concludes our episode for today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple's podcast. Make sure to leave a review. Thank you. Peace.
Peace.